All right, welcome everyone. My name's Adele. So this will be our final Green Chemistry Connections and a little bit of a catch up from last time. So welcome and really stoked to all have you on board today. Just keep letting us know where you're from, just in the group chat there. Slides, okay. Yeah, so like I said, my name's Adele. We've got Tessa, who will be our co-host today. We also have Juliana on board, which is fantastic to have her very early start for her this morning. I'd also like to introduce our organisers for the past 12 months. So we've also got Jasmine, Sarah, Gagan, as well, who've also been helping us manage these sessions. Ambassadors are Sarah and Michelle. So thank you for all of your support. I just want to bring to your attention the support of Millipore Sigma and AICL. So thank you for all of the opportunities that you provide to us as well.
Before we do begin, we want to acknowledge the traditional owners. So as some of our speakers are coming or speaking from Melbourne, we want to acknowledge the Kulin Nations on which the lands of Monash University campuses and sites are situated, and the traditional custodians, the Wurundjeri and the Boonwurrung people. And we pay respects to their elders, past, present and emerging.
And I'd like to acknowledge the Kaurna people in South Australia, the traditional custodians of the land and waters where we meet today. We recognise and respect their deep and ongoing connection to country, land, sea and sky, and the important role these places continue to play in their culture, stories and identity. We also want to pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples joining us today from across South Australia and beyond. It's a privilege. So just going over the code of conduct briefly. So it's important to us that everyone feels a strong sense of belonging during the connections. By participating, you agree to our code of conduct to be professional, respectful and considerate, to be respectful of attendees, their identities and their boundaries, to be mindful of the timing and pace of activities and interactive sessions, and to be mindful not to interrupt or disrupt presentations. You understand that any form of harassment, bullying, abuse, stalking or threatening behaviour and any form of discrimination on the basis of a person's identity and any form of retaliation for reporting harassment or unacceptable behaviour will not be tolerated. So thank you for that. All right, so tonight's rundown, we'll be going through an introduction, which we've already gone through, and then I'll be handing over to Tessa to introduce Professor Tony Patti and Liz. Then we'll have a breakout room with both Tony and Liz, and so you'll be able to allocate your own space. You'll be able to go into those breakout rooms, and then we'll come back together. We may or may not have a break, but we'll see how we go. And then I will introduce Zhuzhao and Corinne. Again, same structure, 2 different breakout rooms, and so you'll have the opportunity to ask some questions, and then we'll have a bit of a wrap up and conclusion. So over to you, Tessa.
Thanks, Adele. So our first speaker for this evening is Professor Tony Patti. Tony is Professor in the School of Chemistry at Monash University and is the Director of the ARC Training Centre for Green Chemistry and Manufacturing. So that is the centre of which this seminar is based around. His research focuses on sustainable solutions through green chemistry, particularly the chemistry of environmentally friendly soil amendments and industrial byproducts for supporting sustainable manufacturing processes. I'm fortunate enough to have him as my PhD supervisor, and I am continually inspired by his leadership in driving innovations and sustainable chemistry practices. So please welcome Tony to the Zoom stage to introduce the training centre. Tony, if you'd like to share your slides.
Thanks, Tessa, and thanks for the kind introduction. And I'll just get my slides up. Is that all working?
Yeah.
I'll go to full screen.
Yeah.
There we go. Is that all right?
Yep, and they're changing. Perfect.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks again for the introduction, Tess, and thank you to all the organisers. And I guess Tessa and Adele had a bit of a say in getting me to talk. Look, it's really a pleasure to have an opportunity to talk about our training centre. I think I've been very lucky and blessed to have the opportunity to work with a great bunch of young people. And I'll say a bit more about, I guess, my feelings and views there. I'll also acknowledge my co-directors. I mean, I have this title of director, but importantly, we are a team. Colin Barrow, Professor Colin Barrow from Deakin, Professor Colin Raston from Flinders, and Professor Chris Rogers from Curtin. We are a centre, and let me explain a bit. In a sense, we're a virtual centre. We're not one building with everything and everyone in the one place. We're the unity, I think, is through the people. That's what makes us the centre, the people that are part of that, and others that have joined, and some of the affiliates that have also contributed greatly to what we are trying to do in the centre. So for those of you who are not familiar with the Australian jargon, if you like, we call them ITTCs, Industrial Transformation Training Centre. They're funded by the Australian Research Council. And the concept is to have a theme around some activity or some focus of research. In our case, we just went for the theme, very broad, very general, green chemistry in manufacturing. And that really allowed a whole range of opportunity for different projects and activities to fall under that banner. It's the aim of the Australian Research Council through these training centres is to provide a cohort, if you like, of a growing workforce for the future who are going to make a difference in a particular area under that theme. And ours being green chemistry means we can make a difference in a lot of places. And some of the training centres are much more focused in terms of the theme that they're running with. A key feature is that I've already mentioned the importance of growing in practice of green and sustainable chemistry and showing leadership in the future. It's deliberately aimed at PhDs and postdocs because they're more likely to be in positions in the future where they'll have some influence and be able to bring about change for the better. So the emphasis is around partnership with industry and government and appropriate authorities through the projects that the training centre undertakes. And we try very hard, I think, to have those connections and have quite a range of industries. I'll show you a couple of those industry bodies that are involved. Clearly a focus around green chemistry, novel and innovative products, as it's dot pointed here on our screen. And we hope we're building a cohort of not just academic, but industry researchers that will collaborate and work together in the future. They will, we hope, be friends and colleagues for life and be able to keep in touch through their experience through the centre. Also part of our activity, and we put this deliberately into our aims, was to have some outreach activities where those outreach activities reach well beyond the technical or the partners that are involved, but to reach out to younger people, and not just young people, all ages, but the focus has been on young people in the activities that our training centre has been involved with. And I'll just say a few more words about that in a moment. So there's a general picture of training centres, and I know that in other parts of the world they have some similar type of funded bodies. I'll call it a body in the loosest open sense. As I said, our centre is what I call, it's a virtual centre. We have nodes, and the nodes really are the university partners where the PhD students are based and postdocs. I'll just go to the next slide. And it's not changing for me. I don't know why. There we go. So the features, as I said, and I'll emphasise, every PhD project is linked with a sponsoring industry, and we have supervision from academics in each of the partner universities and mentors as well from industries. The projects, the agenda for the projects are set by the industry partners, and then we used a matchmaking approach, if I can call it that, for our training centre. When we knew what projects industry partners wanted, we then found the most appropriate academics and invited them to join. We already had a group of academics, of course, who had brought industry partners to the centre in the application process. So that, of course, meant they already had been self-identified, so to speak. 3 postdocs. We had one at Deakin, one at Flinders, and one at Monash. When we've had a little bit of change in personnel, when I say postdoc positions, and a couple of those people have moved on. We've had replacements, but we've got Shu Zhao's with us tonight from Flinders, and we've had others as well. And the postdocs, their role is really, they have an opportunity to work on a project of their own, but also to interact with the projects of the PhDs in each of the nodes. And I'm really pleased to say that I think we've been very lucky with our postdocs, that they've generally been great in engaging and helping our PhDs in the training centre, but also other PhDs. We weren't exclusive. We always said that if people wanted to join as affiliates, what I meant by affiliates is their project wasn't being funded directly by one of the partners, but they might have had projects related as well, and they were very welcome to be part of our activities. We also ran, and I think this was a very important feature, that we ran training activities and networking events, webinars. Some of you I know, or many of you, have participated in webinars. We've had a number this year already. But for the actual members of the centres and some of the affiliates, we had an annual 2 to 3 day event where we all came together. We rotated the venue, and I think they were terrific experiences. At least that's my view as someone involved in organising it. But as an organiser, sometimes you're never sure whether you've got it right or not. And we tried to emphasise a range of activities in training that were going to help our participants for their careers in the future. So it wasn't just technical, it was covering issues like project management, speakers from industry, aspects of business development, aspects of communication, and so forth, just to give a few examples. We also had what I believe is a great outreach program, and I just want to acknowledge particularly Adele and Tessa and a couple of others who were involved. Mina helped out a bit, Corinne's helped out a bit. That program is too successful because we really had to pull back a bit on advertising it because the demand from schools, it was focused on green chemistry activities for young people, and with Adele's teaching expertise, we were able to get some really good teaching materials developed that Adele spent a lot of time on and pitched at 2 levels, upper primary school and middle secondary school, and alerting them to green chemistry. So we're hoping that that will keep going in the future, particularly if we can get some funding to help us take that forward. Just to give you an idea of some of the companies, I know some of you from different parts of the world, some of these companies perhaps don't ring a bell, that you may not recognise. There's a fairly strong emphasis on some of the Australian companies that are partners. And one of the things I will say about our company partners, the success or otherwise of the involvement of our companies depended a lot on the individuals and the relationships that were built or already existed with some of the academics, with some of the people in the companies and organisations. And in a few cases, unfortunately, when people leave, we have champions in companies who are very supportive, and if they move on. It does sometimes leave a void, which is often sometimes difficult. We understand difficult for somebody else in the company to fill in when somebody within that company has been had a strong mentoring role and very vested in the project, and then they've shifted jobs for whatever reason, not able to continue in that. But on the other hand, I think our PhDs would agree that where they've had strong company involvement, they've had a pretty good experience. That's again my impression from looking in and being involved as a supervisor in a couple of projects as well. And of course, Beyond Benign is one of our great partners, and John has been to Australia a number of times and participated in our workshop or our multiple day activities. He'll be here again later this year, and I know he's coming to Flinders in that visit that he's making later this year. And we've also had quite a bit of help from Amy through Beyond Benign and some advice that she's provided and helped with the outreach activities. So we're very pleased and proud that we are part of that and belong, getting the assistance from the organisation. Industry partners, what's in it for them? Well, we know and we've had comments that they see graduates or people coming through this program as really being more industry aware and tuned into how industry thinks, particularly when they're working on a new product or process and want to get an outcome fairly quickly. And I think it's actually helped some of our partners see that a PhD, where sometimes the view is, oh, we're not going to see a result for 3.5 or 4 years. Not true. I believe that sometimes there's been results come through much more quickly as part of the PhD project. Multidisciplinary collaboration is important. And of course, our training activities have been open to industry partners to send their own representatives to, and some of those have come, and that's been great. There's always the money side, the co-investment I've mentioned there, that the leveraging money through the Australian Research Council. The other advantage and benefit for industry is they've had access to expertise in more than one university through our partnership. So it might be expertise of people or access to equipment. And for our graduates coming through the program, well, there's potential employment, networking, of course, very important because they meet a range of people through the different events. And very importantly, that understanding of how industry thinks, the industry needs going forward, which not only thinking about the science and the technical stuff, but thinking about the business aspects, the whole business model, if you like, of what industry needs for outcomes. Some of the events we've had, and I'm just showing you a few images here. This image was from our Green Chemistry Conference just last year in December in Melbourne. The first, the new division now of the Royal Australian Chemical Institute Green Chemistry Division. Some of the audience, I'm sure, will recognise some faces at beyond our training centre. John Warner's there, Paul Anastas hiding up the back, Colin Raston, and Professor Milton Hearn, who some of you will know was director of one of the first centres here at Monash that kicked off in the early 2000s. And we've got our great bunch of PhD researchers. These are just a few random shots taken from some of the activities. This, I think, was a lecture by, I think I can see that it's Professor Matthias Dries from Berlin, who came to one of our training days and talked about catalysis. So, as I said, our training mixed technical with outside of the technical chemistry. This is another one. This, I think, was our Deakin event. Again, one of the things I will comment on, you might notice, we, by default, not by design, the majority of our PhDs researchers are female. We have very few men. That sort of happened by default. The best people got the gig, as they say, and not so many guys applied. So that you might reflects in the picture here. You can see again that John and Amy Cannon and their daughter were at this one as well. I'm just going to move something on my. I've got a thing blocking my screen here, and I can't see all my slides, so I'll have to get rid of this screen sharing bar. Bear with me for a moment. Here we go. I just want to finish, and I'm conscious of time, and I think important that I don't take up all the time. I think you want to hear from our great young people who are due to speak. I've just wanted to give a plug for the Stockholm Declaration. I'm sure you've all heard of it. Anyone moving in green chemistry circles should have come across it already. It was a declaration through the Committee for the Nobel Laureates that had a meeting earlier this year in Stockholm in May, where chemists from all over the world, or leading chemists in the green chemistry circles, were invited, and a declaration document, if you like, but it's more than a document. It's a request. It's a beg for commitment, and I think for all of you listening to this this talk of mine, I really urge you to have a look at the declaration and sign it if you haven't done so already, because as you can see from 5 key points, it asks us to ensure design, development, implementation of chemical products, processes that eliminate harm. The chemical enterprise must act now to recognise the risk and not just continue status quo. Education is needed, and it's education across the board, from our teachers, our university academics, the public arena, professional bodies, and so forth, that we stress the importance of non-hazard and safe materials, chemicals for the future. Reliable data and information. And we know, I think we all have this experience nowadays of why we get so much negativity in our press and our public arena, particularly around chemicals, and people not believing the science, not believing the data. And I think as scientists and chemists, we have to work hard at combating that and providing the reliable data. And of course, we have the need for regulation and policy that doesn't really support the status quo. It's got to move to support a future that's more sustainable. So that's my little plug to finish up on. Sign the declaration. I've got the link there if you haven't done it already. And we have to all act now, and in the broadest sense. Once again, thanks to the organisers for the opportunity to speak. I think I'm very blessed and lucky to have the opportunity to work with a great group of young people, as well as my fellow academics and some of the industry partners. I've learnt a lot, and I know those of you that are in the centre have probably heard me say this a few times. Don't call yourself students. You're PhD researchers, you're PhD scholars. We're all students, and we've got a lot to learn and to study for if we're going to make a difference with the adoption of green and sustainable chemistry going forward for the benefit of our planet. So I think I've got one more slide. I don't know, it's going to change anyway. The last slide was simply a thank you slide, and with some nice pictures, but it's not changing for me. So I'll stop there and hand back over to who is Tessa, the host, for our next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you for the introduction to the centre. And I have put the link to the Stockholm Declaration in the chat for those who want it. But just a reminder, this will be recorded. So if you want to go back and get any other information from Tony's talk or any of the other talks, please do.
Can I
As
just quickly say a thank you also to our advisory board, and I've noted Dr. Despina Anastasius on the online tonight. So thank you, Despina, for joining. Despina's been one of our advisory board members as well as a number of other people. But thanks, Despina. Francis is there too. Thank you, Francis. Francis is also. I just haven't picked up all the names in the boxes. So thanks for joining. They've been great contributors on giving us great advice. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.